Oh, it's a lovely fucking sport. Do
On
you want
that,
to talk about
I,
that at all on air, Matt?
no,
what
Matt,
what
it's
about
not
all
one.
my medals on USPSA website?
No. Anybody? All right.
Not take
Welcome
the
to
bait,
Practical
Matt.
Shooting After Dark. We're here to talk about shooting. Well, you guys know the deal. Everybody comes here with a topic, something fun to talk about. On deck tonight, we have Mr. Hopkins.
Hi.
We have Mr. Kim.
Hi.
We have Mr. Park.
Hello.
Oh, guys, I'm very excited because you guys know I've promised you some sauce for this show.
You
I've
have
Oh,
promised
promised
you.
some spice.
I've promised you some spice. So I'm going to read you a letter that I got. Um, well, I think it should spark an interesting discussion. Hey, Ben, I've been catching up on some old podcasts, and I heard you guys talking about the RO problem. Last year, I fell victim to an overzealous and incompetent RO and gave this some thought. I know the odds of the Beard implementing any of this are next to zero, but here are my suggestions. Number one, make becoming an RO mandatory for maintaining membership after a given time period, say 1 or 2 years after joining. Failure to become an RO in that time period would result in an inability to shoot level 2 and up matches until that requirement was met. Number two, stop charging for RO classes and task members would still supply their own ammo, but not pay for the class. USPSA has the money, but if they're too cheap, they could add the annual membership fee, the $5 or whatever minimal amount it would take to fund this program. These two steps would provide a broad field of ROs, make the sport safer, and ensure there are almost always qualified people on the timer and scoring targets at level 1 matches. As it is now, people pay for the privilege of volunteering to work for free, and this system can attract a certain personality type that seeks power. Think mall cop, security guard, hall monitor. It seems that many of the active ROs are not the most accomplished shooters, and this might affect what they think they are seeing. Making it mandatory and included with the membership would both dilute the pool of weirdos and also push better shooters with better overall understanding of the game into the RO pool. Number three, we should prioritize slots for majors, giving preference for points accrued during the previous year using a predetermined point system based on major matches worked. This would provide incentive for more serious shooters to volunteer to work majors. It would provide a much larger pool for MDs to choose from so they wouldn't have to settle for subpar ROs or have trouble staffing matches. It would reward those who commit to the sport. Yes, all this would require greater commitment from members, could cost USPSA nonprofit model some profit, which is it's one thing we know they care about is the making sure that they make their money, and possibly hurt membership and perhaps shrink attendance at majors. But in my opinion, these could all be good positive things for the existing and committed USPSA membership and the sport in general. All right, guys, reactions to this.
I don't know if everybody or a lot of people being on RO will make the sport safe. I kind of doubt that because I have an experience. So I'm a certified RO, and when I took the class, so the program was you take this, like a seating lecture kind of thing, and the next day you shoot together and you RO each other. And our class happened to have a real match, so we just simply squatted together, all the class members shot together. And then the first person I RO'd, I DQ'd due to unsafe gun handling. The very first RO.
On
How about
purpose?
this? Does anybody sitting here believe that putting people through a 2-day RO course makes them a good RO?
No.
Does anybody believe that?
No.
None of us. All right. So I like you. The guy who wrote this letter, I know him. Look, I like you, but this is BOC thinking. This is how BOCs think. It's always your fault when they're fucking up. Honestly, it's always your fault. So this is a way of blaming the. It's like, well, what? It's like our fault for not being ROs. Like, no, that is crazy. What we need to do is start at the top. Well, how about this? Do we all believe there to be an RO problem? Is that in any controversy here
It could be better.
in this group? No, you guys aren't saying anything.
I mean, obviously it could be better.
I mean, has it? Well, what track would you say it's been on in, say, the last 5 years?
I would say it's probably on the downhill, like on
Yes,
the downhill
I think
side.
we
of
would
it.
all agree that things have declined substantially.
Especially at
last
major
5 years.
matches.
Yeah, especially at major matches. It's a problem. It's actually like for this reason, not interested. Like for me, I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like not that I'm not interested in major matches, but as far as like going and really like going all in on the sport and like going to like training hard and going to nationals, like get the fuck out of here. Like honestly, that's my opinion. You got whatever. So I agree there's a problem, but this is not the solution. This is the make people get their points and like forcing them to be ROs. Like
that points thing is absolutely horrible. IDPA tries that right now.
It's horrific.
And they literally have national champions that don't qualify for their national championship because of their point system. It's horrible.
Yeah. Look,
it's not good.
Like
we cannot do that at all.
The people at the top, and this is not my view, is that being like we can give you a class and that makes you a good RO, and that ROing should be a dipshit job. And again, I don't think ROing is a dipshit job. I don't think you can teach a class really on how to be a good RO. That's kind of something either someone kind of has it or they don't. There are some personality types, as this correctly identifies, certain people should not be ROs. And what we should do is hold the ROs we have to a standard and stop letting the attitude prevail that it's a dipshit job, because it is not. It's important to have really good ROs. You can't obviously you cannot force people to volunteer to be ROs. You can't force people to be good ROs. You can't assign points to it. It's an attitude thing, and it starts at the top. So, so let's look at NROI for a second. If we have a bad RO, Matt, what's the procedure if we have like a guy who's a real problem RO?
Well, there is a form you can fill out, like an RO incident form, and you turn that into USPSA.
Yes, there is. There's an RO incident form. So that's an important thing that we have. Whereas if somebody just should not be on RO and we need to hold them to a standard, like we have a way to report that to NROI. All right, next question. Have you guys, let me put it this way. Do you believe that such a report will be taken seriously by anyone at NROI?
I've actually turned 2 in at 2 separate times in the last 13 years.
Yes.
And I've heard zero outcome of both of them.
Hello? What's that, Matt?
I've heard zero outcome of both of them.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a protectionist sort of attitude. Even saying these sort of things, like if we had the heads of NROI, like all the range master instructors there, and we said, hey, ROing is on the decline the last 5 years. That's our assessment. They're not as good as they used to be. I'm sure that they would take no accountability. They wouldn't even acknowledge the issue.
It'd be very offensive to them.
Yeah, they would be offended. Oh, they volunteer. It's like, I'm not saying it. All right. Well, let me tell you guys a little story. This reminds me of young Ben. Young Ben, when I was a kid when this happened. I remember I was at a park and somehow I got roped in to being a ref at a softball game, which I don't know anything about and don't give a shit about. And what do you guys think happened?
You let them do whatever they wanted.
No, I was like, when I was a kid. No, I didn't let them do whatever they wanted. I remember I was like,
then you hammered down on them on every single thing.
No, I don't know anything about the rules for softball, dude. I didn't hammer on anybody. I remember I blew a call like a runner went to second base and I blew it. I couldn't have, I didn't know if they were out or they're safe, and I should have. And people got pissed at Kid Ben, young Ben here, because I was fucking up. Honestly, and they held me to a standard. Were they wrong to do that? No, they were right to do that, because they honestly demanded good officiating, and it wasn't like I didn't come at them with, oh, I'm a volunteer. It was none of that. It was yeah, I really fucked that up, and I stopped refereeing. But they demanded somebody do a good job, and they should have. What we need to do is demand these people do a good job. And it starts at the top. And just we know the personalities involved. You're sitting here and you're like, yeah, they would be offended if you criticize them. It's well, now it's pretty obvious where the problem is. It's at the top of the organization, not at the bottom. We should be encouraging people to be good ROs. We should be training ROs, of course. But this is not the way. This point system is cunty, frankly. This is not the way to do it. We want to encourage people to be good ROs. We want to hold accountable the bad ones. And we want to make sure that it's not we don't view it as and again, USPSA has been all about dumbing down ROing because they think that you're dumb. They think everyone, like the people running NROI, think that everyone is dumber than them somehow, and like they can't like do critical thinking or whatever. They can't understand equipment rules. Unenforceable. Can't. No, we can't have any of this. People are too stupid. And until that attitude changes, the situation's not going to change. At least that's my assessment. Any reaction to this, guys?
Yeah, I have one thing I actually liked. What the organization did was they started making Vimeo videos. So NROI was there, like the top tier ROs were in the video discussing or explaining about certain rules. And I really think I'm aware that the Frontside magazine has the NROI section and there's some rules discussed. But to be honest, who's gonna read that? People nowadays, the newer generations, are more of a online media content addictives. So I think the Vimeo video, I think it was a fantastic idea, but I don't think it was pushed hard enough to make it more frequent. And the first couple ones I saw good discussions under the comments. But I don't know when was the last time I saw the video keep coming out. I don't know if they stopped making it or
Oh,
it's
they
just
still do it. They still do it like every month, but there's literally no publicity on that. So like, have you seen anything in the weekly blast from USPSA on that? Like, is there anything that points people to that? I think that's where they're failing. Like the videos are good. They do explain really well. Like they're very professionally produced. Like they're good. It's just no one knows to go look at them and see them.
I don't think the issue fundamentally is that people don't understand the rules. I really don't think that's an issue. I mean, especially as often as they change things, there's always going to be confusion or whatever. And that, yeah, they put out the rule changes, but I don't think that's the issue is not that people do not know the rules. That is sometimes an issue, but not really. That's not our problem with overzealous ROs. Here's an example. I've talked about this before. You guys remember the Nationals where this is maybe 2017, where on one stage there's an RO. I mean, he must have punted 25 people.
Yes.
You remember this? I got really
17.
pissed. Yeah, it was
Utah.
Yeah, in Utah. So situation was day 3, we roll up to this stage, and we've been hearing stories. And like I watched one guy get DQ'd, and I was just like, no. So you see an RO's over here where he can't really see the muzzle's direction. He's calling somebody on a close 180 call, which wasn't. And the CRO's in the back of the stage, can't see what's going on. And over the course of this, there's no doubt. Like I saw other videos and saw other stuff that went on. Lots of people got DQ'd that shouldn't have been. Lots. It was infuriating. It was totally unacceptable. But the last check on that was with the director of NROI. Like, as you know, the range master comes down for every DQ. So could you imagine it? All these people get smoked, and it's like Troy never even occurred to him that there was some problem here or that the RO might be in the wrong. You know what I mean? Like it never occurred to him. It didn't matter. And it's like when that's the situation, we're at our biggest event, you can have an RO acting that way, and you have the head of the NROI letting it go on, when the right answer there was, hey, the CRO shouldn't be a range officer anymore. Hey, this range officer shouldn't be a range officer anymore, period. You pull their credentials right there. Like it was maddening, and they do nothing.
The default setup is where they back the RO no matter what, and then take action after the fact.
Yes.
If they do.
Yes. There's
like,
nothing
there's
wrong
been issue, like the one most recent
people accountable
that I remember is an RO at Area 3. Joel probably remembers this
I already know exactly what you're going to say. Yeah.
Yep. So, like, and everybody was like, that dude is like DQ'd 10 people already from this exact spot. Like, we all knew it going onto the stage. So we're like, okay, we're going to hold our gun up here and then do the thing with the other hand up here. So it's blatantly obvious. Like, it can't even be construed, like, no matter where the person was at on the stage. And, like, we all saw where this person was calling DQs from. And it's like, you could have the gun in this hand and 2 feet to the left, this hand, but from where he was standing, it looked like it was
Yeah.
swept, and like it wasn't even close. So
It was, yeah. And again, Matt, those situations, they don't ever get addressed. It's
it
like
was it was not addressed at the match. I believe it was addressed after that. And
In what
the way
way?
they address it is they just don't ask that RO back.
So that's not fixed then. The RO
No,
shouldn't be
I
an
mean,
RO,
I'm
period.
sure he's an RO somewhere.
Yeah. They just,
I don't even know where he was from, actually.
and again, it's not like most ROs are cool, but like it's the bad ones that they don't do anything about it. That discourages, I mean, that discourages a lot of good people from wanting the job, frankly. And what are you doing there, Joel?
Nothing.
He's answering my question.
Oh, okay.
That issue Matt's talking about was the talk of the match. I walk up to
100%
people.
was.
I walk up to people that I haven't seen for 6 months. Like, hey man, how you doing? Like, oh, by the way, did you hear about this? I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, I've heard about it.
Well, anyway, I do hope the situation gets better, but before someone starts busting heads at NROI, or they're at least willing to admit that there's a problem, that they need to be a part of the solution, yeah, it's not going to change. That's my opinion. Mr. Kim, let's talk about what you want to talk about.
Yes, I have a show and tell.
Oh, amazing. Sorry, I apologize for my coughing. Got a little bit of the Rona.
So for YouTube viewers, I am holding a meal replacement. So it's plant-based stuff, high protein, some vitamins, not overloaded, but basically this is something I looked at on the internet because I've been carrying icebox all over the place until now, and that bringing icebox, my gun bag, and all that stuff, I didn't like it as much. And I was also researching into something simpler to eat at the match because I don't want to eat the barbecue over there and get really food coma and all that stuff. So I found this meal substitution or meal replacement on the internet. It looks pretty good. How it comes in is it's actually in a water malleable bag. So it's kind of like a capsule. It looks kind of like a dish detergent. You just pop it in the water and shake it. It's perfectly sized. So this is something I'm gonna be experimenting this year to just drink that as a meal substitution rather than trying to snack out all the time. I've not shot a match with it yet, but so far I've taken it a couple as a meal for lunch before shooting live fire and stuff. One thing I noticed is my energy levels just very steady. It's not like I'm feeling full or food coma, nothing like that. So I really liked it. But then one thing is my stomach doesn't feel full. Not necessarily I'm hungry, but it just doesn't have that stomach feeling. So that's something I want to experiment a little bit if that's affecting anyways in a like 8-hour match kind of thing if you shoot major match. So this is something I might recommend if I've heard already from other top shooter. He said he's just drinking protein powder. He carries a water jug and just pops it in and drink that whole thing. But I'm personally a carb eater too. This has some carbs in it too and fiber and all that stuff. So I think this was more balanced. So I would recommend people to like have a good meal plan, and simpler the better.
Can you fly with those?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like a protein powder. I would just put it in a Ziploc bag, and that should be good.
I also like that you mentioned you're trying this while you're not at the middle of a major match. Thinking
Exactly.
like, oh, I've heard this meal replacement's pretty good. We're on stage 2. Let's give this stuff a try.
I'm behind, so I need some caffeine.
Yeah. Yeah, like that's not a good idea. Like, I normally don't have caffeine, but it is match day. I better have 2 monsters. Nope, that is not a good idea.
So the product name is called Vade Nutrition. So if anybody wants to check, but it doesn't have to be specifically for this. You can just find any like high protein meal replacement that should be good.
The bag it's in is kind of interesting, I think.
Yes, that makes it really handy because I don't want like powder going all over my hands or anything like that. That'd be terrible. And also like I don't want to have perfectly measured cups into a bag and like put it in and like spill some of them and now it's out of out of
Just think
grams.
though, you could do that. You'd be like, no, I got to sit out this next shooter. I'm measuring my protein powder out. So
Exactly.
after I clean my mags, I get my protein powder all ready to go, and then I'm good to reset.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Park, what do you got?
I like it. Well, it's show and tell. It's I want to talk about the mags I use for dry training. This might seem like common sense to people on this panel.
No,
but
it's definitely not common sense.
I can assure you,
keep pumping it out.
I can assure you, it is not common sense to most people I come in contact with. So I use separate magazines for dry fire that are what I use for competition because these get dropped, thrown, stepped on, and beat up. So I don't use these for competition or practice magazines that I've retired. But the important part is that I load these full of dummy rounds and they just stay loaded. So it's since I reload ammunition, it's a empty case with no powder, no primer, and just a bullet seated on them. And they're loaded to the correct capacity for my division. It sounds really dumb, but when you put the appropriate weighted magazine, just like I use in competition, in my gun, drawing it from the holster, it feels a lot different. When you go to do a reload, your hand snaps down to your mag pouch, you grab that magazine, bring it up to the gun. The amount of effort that it takes to move that magazine to your gun is a lot different. Having a bullet on the end to, like, I suppose, guide it, as opposed to just feed lips. I mean, everything, it's completely different. So if you have magazines from like practice, you're looking to retire, just making a couple of those, or even, I don't care if you have to use your practice magazines and load them with dummy rounds every time you dry fire, it's well worth it because, like I said, the way your gun handles, even target transitions, pushing your gun around, depending on your division, especially if it was limited or open or even production for that matter, the weight's different in the guns, the amount of effort you need to push the gun, how the sights start, stop, all that stuff, it's way different. So this year, ammo being the way it is, it's quite important that when you're doing your dry training, you make it your gun feel, your magazines feel as close as you can to how they are in competition because obviously that's what we're training for.
100%. Makes a bigger difference when you're loading up capacity. Like
Joel, you're just always good about putting out good information, aren't you?
It's stuff that I see. A lot of my topics on training group are just people I come across and to me, I'm like, oh, I do this. Like, what? I'm like, you don't know about that? I'm like, oh. It's like people give me my content. But like, especially, I mean, for me, even personally, doing reloads, like when I first started, I'd take all my magazines, put them on my belt, and I'm just like, go through them. Like, man, and then you put ammo in it, it is way different. Because with no ammo, like the magazine just whips out and it's like super light to throw it around. But it doesn't feel anything like that where you're in a match under stress. You want to reload the gun quickly. So anyway, ingrain good habits.
All right. Well, we got who's the last man?
Questions.
Oh yeah, questions.
Yeah, we've already went quite a bit, so let's do questions.
Oh, Matt, you just didn't bring a topic, did you?
I had one tonight without any prompting.
Admit it.
Pretty good.
Admit you. No, you don't need a topic. No, I've been guilty of this on numerous occasions. Well, we have an important and relevant question for you. Some people talk about verifying their zero before attending a major match. How often will your zero change if you're using the same ammo based on different areas of the country?
Oh, this is easy.
Go ahead,
with
Matt.
iron sights, it literally never changed.
Yes.
With the optic, once I got it sighted in, it literally never changed unless the optic broke. When I flew to matches, I would shoot the gun to verify nothing broke during transport. But it did not change from that, unless the optic broke. That's the only thing I've noticed.
See, that was a pretty easy one. What about you, Mr. Kim?
For PCC, it's pretty more affected, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially when you accidentally have a lower charge or different grainage of bullet, like 115 versus 124. Definitely the 0 point changes, especially at more distant. But handgun, I really agree with Matt.
Well, you guys want to do one more question? Because that was pretty dumb.
It was not a dumb question.
I thought you guys would beat on it, but all right. I have your new book, and on dry firing, I'm wondering what's the best way to employ it. I'm currently a C-class shooter working on the move to B-class with 4-month experience. I've started in Chapter 2 after reading and proving I can complete Chapter 1, so level, all right. The real question is on dry fire drills. What's the best way to maximize my time? Complete each drill at 3 yards one day or 5 the next. Just work on different distances for a week and try another drill. Any information would be greatly appreciated. So this guy's referring to the new book, Practical Shooting Training. With myself and Joel Park worked on that one. And he is, I was training at level 2, so he's trying to break into B class. So with that, Joel, what would your recommendations be for dry fire?
I was gonna actually kick this to Mr. Kim. I see
Really?
he was already like taking a breath.
Yeah, I mean, and as Mr. Kim well knows, the guys with the appropriate B class par times in there, this guy should have a good idea of how fast he should be doing these drills. But I think the idea is how to split up his time. So anyway, with that, take it away, Mr. Kim.
Okay, this may be a little bit different, depends on the goal. Of course, some people think in terms of making this classification, or some people think in terms of finishing in that percentage at major match. So one is to get high classification, one is to be at that level shooter. And also depends on your strengths, it's a little bit different, but generally, like in that level 2 from the book, you should be really focusing on having the gun handling speed down while maintaining the right physical placement. So for example, hitting the right grip, right pressure, shoulders relaxation. That's as a result of after gun handling. So for sure, there's a speed component of the gun handling, yes. So learning the relaxed body, moving body parts fast at a maximum speed according to the part time, and actually having the right grip. Grip is, of course, one good example. Or it could be precise stop on the body parts. So having transition to target, stopping more precisely with the right tension, right grip, etc. Yeah. So really applying those fundamentals. So basically those tension, grip, stuff like that is, let's call that shooting fundamentals. And applying that shooting fundamentals as a result on every single whatever skill it is. So after draw, shooting fundamentals there. Position enter, your shooting fundamentals there to shoot, applying that copy paste to other skills.
Yeah, I mean, so here, like I don't think you'd need to do the drills at different. I mean, it's not about like the yardages or anything. It's like it's working on, like you said, it's putting the shooting fundamentals to the test across this broad mix of different exercises. And I would just say keep on working on stuff so you're not getting bored. You know, especially trying to get to B class, like the par times. Once with not that much training, drawing and reloading for most people, the par times aren't going to be that hard. It's not about the par times. It's like you said, Mr. Kim, it's about the shooting fundamentals, for sure.
Yes. Yeah, Kim basically left nothing left to say, as I figured he would.
No, that
but also, I knew this was going to happen. Just to draw your attention to what level 2 is and what it is not. Like what Kim's saying, marksmanship fundamentals, gripping the gun properly. Like that's where it's at. So that's why those skills or those drills are in level 2. It's not all about shooting on the move or doing go stop a bunch of times. So I think his question was also about time management. 3 to 5 minutes per drill. Think about what your lowest hanging fruit is or what you're the least comfortable on. Work on that drill for 3 to 5 minutes. Your hand's getting smoked. I'm getting bored, getting tired. Switch to a different drill. And then a lot of those, those are the core drills that are going to be things you're going to build on down the road.
Yeah,
because dry fire can be boring, I suppose some people would say, but mixing it up, like I said, every 3 to 5 minutes, try something you haven't done that day. Yeah, keeping yourself engaged.
With the dummy rounds in the dry fire mags, right?
Yes, you have to.
Yes,
you must. All right, guys. Well, with that, it's a good time to end. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions for me or the panel, go to benstegger.com. Send us your questions, and we'd love to hear from you.
Bye.